member of the Senate Foreign Relations and Judiciary Committees, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. And we should note that he is backing Joe Biden's bid for president. What a shock coming from Delaware. I almost fell out of my chair. So, Senator, the arrogance of Donald Trump and the arrogance of a lot of people in the United States to believe that we can continue this trade war and escalate this trade war with China without China looking elsewhere and say, well, you know what? We will just trade more with the EU countries. We'll trade more with Canada. We'll trade more with other countries across the globe. Suggests that some people think that we are still in 1999. The world has changed dramatically. And China, once they reinvest, once they retool, we lose a lot of that capital and a lot of that investment for decades to come.
That's right, Joe. This is exactly my core concern with how President Trump has approached our trade issues with China. Look, I have supported President Trump's initiative to make evening the playing field, leveling the playing field between the United States and China a central focus of our foreign policy. China has been ripping off our inventions and our intellectual property for decades and forcing our companies to transfer technology in a way that has helped fuel their rise. But what Trump got wrong was to first take the club of tariffs and swing it at our closest allies, at Canada, at Mexico, at all of our vital allies in Europe and Asia before taking that tool to China. So we face China in an America first posture, which tragically, as you just said, Joe, may end up being America alone, rather than having brought together all the free societies, all of the countries that have been so well aligned with us for 70 years, which has led to our prosperity and security. President Trump has been distancing our allies from us. I was at the Munich Security Conference last year when Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany said America is no longer a reliable ally. That sent ripples throughout the room. And frankly, the ways in which Trump and his administration have pushed and challenged and tested our alliances has left us in a weaker position. His bold move now to add $300 billion in Chinese consumer goods to the goods subject to tariffs had a big effect on the market yesterday. And I think we all need to remember that tariffs are taxes. These are taxes that have so far been paid by farmers, by manufacturers, by exporters. Now they're going to start hitting consumers in September. And I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to stay the course, get a good deal, and get out of this trade war.
Senator, it's Jonathan Lemire. Obviously, the main political event this week was the pair of Democratic debates in Detroit. You've, of course, indicated you've endorsed Vice President Joe Biden. So two questions for you. One is, there were a lot of concerns coming out of the vice president's performance in the first debate, and he did still have some stumbles this time around, too. So my first question is, do you feel like he has alleviated those worries that people feel like he is perhaps not up for this race? And my second question is, were you as surprised, as we've been discussing today and all week, about the number of attacks on the Biden-Obama legacy? And do you think that's effective for Democrats going forward?
Absolutely. I think Joe Biden did what he had to do in Detroit. I was there. I was grateful to have the opportunity to be with him and to see him perform so well. In the first debate in Miami, I think he was genuinely taken aback that colleagues who he considers close friends came after his record and President Obama's record so pointedly and forcefully at times. And I was surprised to see that on the debate stage in Detroit. President Obama is the most popular, most unifying recent two-term Democratic president. He has a very strong record of moving our country forward on things from health care to climate change. And Joe Biden appropriately took credit for his central role in pushing to save the American automobile industry, which had such a big impact on Detroit and on the state of Michigan. So I frankly think what we should have heard on the stage in Detroit was how we are all united in advancing health care at a time when President Trump and Republicans in the Senate are trying to take away health care, take away pre-existing condition protection from millions of Americans.
Senator Coons, Elise Jordan here. If we could switch gears a bit and talk about the rising tensions with Iran. The Trump administration announced new sanctions on the Iranian foreign minister, calling him the chief propagandist, which of course is true, but also the foreign minister is the chief negotiator for Iran. How does this move increase the likelihood that the relationship will end up in a military conflict and not a diplomatic solution?
Well, Elise, you raise an excellent point. One of my core concerns is the lack of open channels that would allow both our diplomats and our military to avoid an unintended conflict with Iran. There's been a lot of debate and discussion in the Senate about our policy in the Middle East, the lack of a clear strategy. The current administration has a very aggressive pressure campaign against Iran. And again, I'll say Iran is a dangerous regime that does spread terrorism and support destabilizing proxies throughout the region. But for us to put them under greater and greater pressure without the sort of back channels or opportunities for negotiation that would allow them to say uncle and to come back to the table, which I think this latest move to sanction Foreign Minister Zarif indicates, is not wise and may well lead to an unintended conflict, the costs and the duration of which we really can't predict.
All right, Senator Chris Coons, thank you very much.